Today, the Supreme Court, though, will take up Tennessee's ban on several forms of medical care for transgender youth. Some are calling this the biggest case of the term, and we want to go live to St.George, who is in D.C. What are the potential consequences to this, Joe?
Well, good morning from the United States Supreme Court, and you can always tell how big a case it is by the fact it's 25, 27 degrees out, and you have hundreds of people outside the United States Supreme Court ahead of oral arguments, which will get underway in a little less than an hour and a half. This case specifically at the Supreme Court today, as you noted, is being called by some the marquee case of the term. When you look at all the other cases that the justices will be hearing, this may be the biggest one yet. Specifically, it's out of Tennessee, but it has the potential to impact north of 20 states around the country. It's all about gender-affirming care medical treatments for transgender youths. Tennessee passed a ban on things like puberty blockers in recent years. That is being challenged by some in the transgender community. This case for some has it all. For some, it's about constitutional rights. For others, particularly those on the right, it's about child welfare. For others, it's about health care. There's a global element to this story. Some European countries have begun to restrict what transgender young people under the age of 18 can do, citing a lack of medical research. Yes, it's a conservative-leaning Supreme Court on paper, but remember, just a few years ago, the High Court handed the LGBTQ plus community a major victory here. So in some ways, this is uncharted territory, but we're going to get eventually an opinion that could be transformational for transgender Americans across the country, including transgender youths in Colorado, depending on how wide or how narrow the justices ultimately rule. I think our viewers know by now, today is just oral arguments. We will be waiting months for the eventual opinion from the Supreme Court.